Well guys, here we are once again with our blue speedy hero making his way into the hearts of comic book fans across the world. And this time, he's doing it under a new publisher.
In case some of you are new to this channel and don't know the history behind this book, Sonic the Hedgehog comics were originally published and created by Archie Comics, who for some time have made their business and fortune making comics about this ginger kid named Archie. I've only read maybe 10 or 20 comics featuring this guy, and I've never been interested in the American sitcom kind of stories. They always just sort of scream formulaic to me, especially stories that are centered around high schools or suburban American towns. When it comes to our speedy marsupial, though, Sonic had a consistent run for almost 25 years in the comic book business. He had crossovers, controversial story events, a multitude of writers that either did or didn't play the video games, a myriad of art styles that, while not technically bad, didn't exactly match the tone of stories that writers were willing to tell. Looking at you especially issue 134. Now, despite having a passionate fan base and even a really good writer to fix a majority of the continuity, there was a lot of things going on during the years between 2015 to 2017. See, there was this show being pitched at the time called Riverdale. Perhaps you may have heard of it. It's a murder mystery show set in the world of Archie, and from what I heard amongst a family member of mine, it is pretty good. I personally don't care for it, but the reason I bring this up is because there was this noticeably odd delay between comic book releases, and in particular, some Sonic the Hedgehog issues were more concerned with trying to promote the Riverdale TV show on the inside of the covers instead of the games or the upcoming issues that were coming out. It was especially noticeable after the release of issue 290. Yes, that's how long this series goes for. There was no sign of an issue 291 anywhere, and here's the thing. Ian Flynn already planned out a multitude of stories after the genesis of a hero story, which would be the comic book's version of interpreting the first 4 classic games by incorporating the Freedom Fighters into the backstory as well. And hell, the Freedom Fighters were going to get their own Sonic Universe stories detailing their history in this new world, and I thought that was a brilliant idea.
But we just got no news about what was going on at the time. All we really knew was that from dedicated fan bases that belong to the Sonic community, whether it was TSSC or the Sonic Stadium, they tried to make some inquiries to Archie about what was going on, because we knew that there was something in the works for the upcoming issues, just nothing was being announced from the official comic books or just from Archie themselves. All we really got was that, I remember there was this one person, I can't remember who it was, but they tried to make some phone calls to the staff at Archie, and most of them said that the comic book was most likely cancelled, or Archie had no real intention of continuing it. And as a way of an apology, they just sent an issue of the reboot Archie comic. So, there you go.
There's some other reason I read from Archie claiming that the Sonic comic was cancelled because it wasn't Archie enough. What the fuck does that mean? I in no way know, nor care.
And so, after we received the news that everyone pretty much knew about, whether you're in the Sonic community or if you just didn't see a Sonic comic book for a really long time from Archie, and you just needed closure on, it wasn't long before IDW made an announcement saying that they obtained the license to distribute Sonic the Hedgehog comic books, and not only that, they got the original team back together.
With Ian Flynn as head writer, returning artists Tyson Hess, Tracy Yardley, Adam Bryce Thomas, Jennifer Hernandez, thanks for the follow on Twitter by the way, love your work, Evan Stanley, colours by Matt Herms, Heather Breckle, and joined by editors Joe Hughes and David Marriott, IDW brings you the first 4 issues of Sonic the Hedgehog. And I can tell you firsthand that when the Sonic community heard about this, they were thrilled to see these guys come back. For me personally, it was a good opportunity for Ian Flynn to begin with a fresh, clean slate, because despite his work for Archie, I personally think his Sonic Unleashed adaptation went on for perhaps a bit too long, and didn't really get the time to properly flesh character histories and the world of Sonic the Hedgehog itself. I also think some concepts he was trying to introduce in some cliffhangers in Sonic Universe he kind of forgot about, or didn't really leave enough breadcrumbs to remind people that something big was happening.
But we can worry about that technicality later. What I want to do is dive into this brand new world, a brand new publisher taking on the speedy blue hero, and to see if I can recommend this series to you guys and see if it's worth your time or not.
As a fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog series, I'm going out of my way to personally buy 2 copies of each issue that's released with each respected variant cover, as a means of support to the team over at IDW, but to also showcase the covers done by some of the internal artists so that you guys can give them some love on their social media links. But enough stalling, let's begin our look at IDW's Sonic the Hedgehog. To begin, we'll be taking a look at Issue 1's covers. The first cover that we have here today is honestly a very striking and standout kind of cover. It shows Sonic striking a cool, slick, and overall cocky kind of pose. I can imagine that he's arcing his whole body to pull off such a display of confidence. It looks so cool. Tails' pose is a little bit more restrained, but he has the same determined look on him that gives off the impression that these two are friends, and he'll follow Sonic to the ends of the earth. It's just nice to see these guys look like they're having a lot of fun. The background is very nice too. The angle of this shot makes the whole of Green Hill Zone look so big, like there's so much more terrain that can be explored, and it gives off that feeling of, here's the world that you can see, but there's so much more to see. The second cover, by Tracy Yardley, is a good first issue cover kind of cover. It's just Sonic running around a loop-de-loop with Green Hill Zone displayed in the background, and I'll admit, there's something both exhilarating but also disorientating about this view being shown upside down. I get kind of dizzy the longer I stare at this cover. Pray that you don't read this on an airplane trip or on the train, or at least just don't look at the front cover at all. So our story begins with a recap of Sonic adventures in his video game past. Sonic the Hedgehog has spent years fighting the forces of Dr. Eggman. Time and again, the Mad Doctor attacks. Sonic strikes back, then relaxes until Eggman returns.
We try to keep an eye on Sonic when he's relaxing. The last time we did that, we didn't have enough security around him, and he apparently got sucked into a magical world full of genies and the Knights of the Round Table. Yeah, some really weird shit happens in our universe.
But after their last battle, Dr. Eggman vanished. This is of course referring to the events in Sonic Forces, which I'm surprised Ian Flynn is actually starting this story off after the game came out 6 months ago. But yeah, we never did see Eggman after Modern, Classic, and Gadget joined forces to take on his not-Nega-Wisp robot. The story picks up as the narrator informs us that despite Dr. Eggman's disappearance, his Eggman army is still terrorizing the rest of the world, to which Sonic seems none too concerned about, as he happens to be approaching a nearby village, currently under attack by egg pawns. Sonic manages to save a nearby soldier and helps him up, and speeds off to take on the bigger mooks, not before sending the militia to help the guy he just rescued, and saving a pair of admiring onlookers.
All this terror might be worth it if I get to say Sonic winked at me.
Yeah, well, I hope crossbreeding is legal in the Sonic universe, because if she's going to try and date the guy, you know, they're two different animals. But even then, Sonic's a bit of a carefree kind of guy, and, you know, he's not dating Amy, so yeah, not gonna happen.
Sonic stumbles upon one of the giant egg hammer robots, pushing him back via a homing attack into the town square, before realizing he just placed himself in a situation where he is now surrounded by 4 of these guys. Where's a Team Blast attack when you need one? Sonic manages to burrow underneath the sewers to escape, and barely manages to make another one while trying to outrun the egg hammers. When in comes the ever-trusty two-tailed sidekick of the bunch, Miles Tails Prower. Good to see he's not carrying before these super badniks and being helpful for once. Sonic and Tails decide to take on the super badniks using the double spin dash from Sonic 4, which I honestly kinda miss. I thought it was a charming little mechanic. Neutralizing and destroying 3 out of the 4 superbots. They spot a few of the remaining badniks making a retreat, and with one final supercharged move ready, they speed off, with Sonic delivering the final coup de grace to the Hammerbot, and Tails lowering the gate to prevent the robots from escaping. With the battle over, Tails brings up that based on previous attacks where the Egg Army was previously unorganized and useless to the point of being a non-threat, due to the sudden appearance of the Egg Hammers and the more coordinated battle tactics and movements of the enemy, it seems without the announcement nor appearance of Dr. Eggman, there may be more to this story than what is going on. Sonic resolves to continue his journey, freeing anyone from the tyranny of the Badniks, whilst assuring Tails that he won't get captured or tortured like in Forces, and everything will be fine. Tails decides to stay behind and help rebuild the town, placing his trust in his brother. With that, Sonic zooms off, with an onlooking Badnik observing him from a distance.
Deploy a battalion to the next nearest town. He'll be drawn to it like a moth to a flame. Make sure word of Sonic's success reaches the Resistance. I want to crush both hedgehogs in one strike.
Unfortunately, I don't have a hard copy of the Tyson Hesse cover for this one, but I wanted to cover it anyway since I intend to buy a copy of that cover sometime soon. But anyway, this cover is pretty good, and this is something I actually just picked up on. If you look at the accompanying Tyson Hesse covers and look at Sonic's hands one by one, you can see his fingers are referencing the numbered issue that the reader has. That's pretty cool. The art on this is very nice. It's cool to see Mon and Amy get the Tyson Hesse treatment, and the Buzz Bombers are nicely drawn too. The second cover, drawn by Adam Bryce Thomas, is honestly my favourite amongst the two. You have Sonic and Amy staring down the egg pawns from Sonic Forces, that giant egg spider is looming over them while the sunlight reflects off their metallic skin, and that determined, calm, yet aggressive expression that Sonic has just screams determined and rebellious. The same guy who did this cover also did the interior pages of the comic, and by Jesus he knows how to make action scenes look so friggin' cool. Look at all those dynamic poses, the different shots and angles, the speed lines on both Sonic and Amy. This guy is really fucking talented. To complement that is perhaps the best written character moment story in these 4 issues in the series. But before we dive into that, let's start from where we left off. With Sonic making his way to other towns, he comes across a giant egg spider trampling a nearby town. With quick reflexes and a spin dash that makes 1000-degree burnt knives look dull, he tears right through the middle of the monstrous machine, earning a praise and applause from the local populace. Before the spider can mount a counterattack, everyone's favourite sweet and sassy pink hedgehog, Amy Rose, delivers the final blow. Now, remember when I said this issue has a great character moment? That all starts when Amy mentions that she was specifically trying to look for Sonic, followed by this cute panel and cheeky retort. I know, it's kinda your thing.
Not like that. I mean, I'm always happy to see you. I would follow you anywhere if only you let me, but... Oh, you get me so flustered.
It's such a cute moment. I love these two. This is so awesome.
Amy explains that despite the cleanup and fixing the whole world thing the Resistance strive to do at the end of Sonic Forces, oh yeah, spoilers, Sonic's team won, even with Eggman gone, the Resistance didn't exactly account for how big the remaining forces would be like, and instead of, well, I don't know, calling back our original character in Sonic Forces, or keeping in touch with him, or her, I don't really mind consistency in Sonic Forces when it comes to original characters, they need Sonic to come back. But Sonic refuses to rejoin, explaining his case to Amy that because the attacks seem more organized, without Eggman behind the big red curtain to claim his initiation to those attacks, it makes sense to him to try and go out of his way to find out who's behind it. Even if it may take a long time, Sonic also sees this as an opportunity to liberate neighboring villages and towns from invading robots. Speaking of an invasion, a nearby villager alerts them to the presence of an invading army converging on their city, with Sonic rushing off to clobber them into spare parts. What follows is an exciting chase and battle sequence, followed by a coordinated militia attack by the villagers, all led by the command of Amy Rose. With one final attack to push back the Eggman mooks for good, Sonic and Amy initiate their own double boost attack, with Amy relentlessly trying to convince Sonic to rejoin the Resistance, with absolutely no selfish intentions. At all. With a final big blow to the aircraft carrier, Sonic and Amy reconvene, with Sonic re-establishing his firm resolve to live by his principles, free as the wind, living by his own way. Amy finally accepts Sonic's decision, seeing it as a part of his character, and decides to lead him in the direction of where Knuckles is. Since she hasn't heard from him, she reckons it will be a good idea to at least have Sonic go and help him out. With an on-locking surveillance spot recording Sonic and Amy's farewell, the mysterious figure watches on, as Orbot and Cubot present him with screenshots of Sonic's newest challenges. Let's take a look at issue 3's covers. To start off with Tyson's cover, this one is probably one of the funnier ones to me, just because of the rivalry that both Sonic and Knuckles share. It's in character, it's something I would expect to see coming from these two, and I do kind of like the pose that Knuckles has, the kind that imposes that he doesn't fool around, Well, Sonic is just like, yo, chill out, man. You're at the front of the cover. Be proud of that. The second cover, drawn by Jennifer Hernandez, is that how you say your surname? I'm sorry if I butcher it. Shows off Sonic and Knuckles facing off against brand new characters to the comic book universe, the Skunk Mercenaries, Rough and Tumble, doing a pose that reminds me too much like the Ginyu Force from Dragon Ball Z. I don't know, does anyone else see that, or is that just me? Oh well. The best part of this artwork is the expressions, the dynamic posing, and the artwork is pretty damn good too, especially the lighting and the shading. And like the previous issue, the interior pages are also done by Jennifer Hernandez. Our third issue begins with Knuckles taking on a giant Death Egg robot on his own. Kinda wish we got to fight more of those in the original game, but whatever. Sonic meets up with Rad Red, they shoot the shit for a little bit, and then we get to the main point of the story. It appears that the villagers are none too keen on opening the doors to their village, and seeing as how this place is a distribution for all the Wispons that the Resistance used during the war, Knuckles came along to see what was going on since the shipments suddenly stopped. Sonic and Knuckles vault over the walls, with the villagers mysteriously hiding from them on first sight. A nearby militia guard informs them that a duo of mercenaries suddenly showed up near the end of the war, driving back Eggman's army, with the intention to help improve their defenses, but instead decided to hold the villagers prisoner and have them do their bidding. Sonic and Knuckles make their way inside the weapons depot, discovering the captured Wisps inside, and our two villains abusing the villagers as their own form of entertainment. Hey, I recognize those two. They're your original characters, aren't they, Jenny? That's awesome. I'm glad IDW let your characters cameo in this story. You must be really happy. Sonic and Knuckles make their grand entrance to the vile villains, who in turn display their own introduction in rhyme. You looking to scrap? Then get ready to crumble. Brace yourselves for Rough and Tumble.
It may seem silly, I agree, but they're no pushover. You'll see.
Unlike Sonic, Knuckles doesn't chuckle at this nonsense. Regardless, they make an attack on the mean mercenaries, with a spin dash here, a clobbering there, a double dribble with a hedgehog, to stink bombing an echidna. That is fucking gross, but it's probably the closest this series will ever get to using mustard gas-like attacks. The two skunks decide to use the Wispons on our heroes, but Sonic calls on each and every Wisp upon them to break free of their oppressors, and to also clarify why some of them appear in Sonic Lost World and in the previous game. There, you have your continuity clarification. You can thank Ian Flynn for fixing everything. Rough and Tumble are sent packing, the village is freed thanks to Sonic and Knuckles, and the ever-mysterious surveillance bot followed by possibly Eggman, possibly someone else, takes note of the Master Emerald being unguarded. Let's wrap this up with our final look at both covers. For Mr. Hess, we have 3 characters taking up the cover this time, with our first appearance of a new hero, Tangle the Lemur, and that is probably the biggest tail I've ever seen on any Sonic character, aside from Tails, Vector, and possibly Infinite. I like her costume too, it's a very cool looking parkour suit, and the colours also complement her fur colour perfectly, really makes her stand out. The second cover, drawn by Evan Stanley, is also very good. I love the fire effect he's created and how it reflects off of everyone. It's a very powerful and striking cover. We begin our final story with Sonic bearing witness to the world's biggest buzz bomber, deploying a huge battalion of robots upon this city on the hill. It makes a nice change from cities that have huge barricades and walls for a change. Upon entering the city, the militia is putting up a well-rounded fight, as Sonic races through the town, coming across Tangle the Lemur, using her tail to, well, tangle them up and crush them. And if you think that should be the most fucking painful thing for someone like her to do to get rid of the robots, don't worry, she's fully aware of this. She teams up with Sonic as they work together to destroy as many egg pawns as possible. But it seems they have met their challenge with the appearance of a giant Gatling gun motorbug. Before they can mount a counterattack, the robots are engulfed in flame, and from the cinders arrives the Princess of the Soul Dimension. Blaze. With Blaze's help, Tangles' tenacity, and Sonic's quick reflexes, the trio managed to destroy and fend off the invading army, with Tangle launching Sonic and Blaze up into the sky to defeat the giant buzz bomber. Sonic makes his way inside, spin dashing the ever-living crap out of anything associated with an egg, with Blaze using a Kamehameha to finish it off for good measure. I still love you. Sonic introduces Tangle to Blaze and Blaze to Tangle, with Blaze explaining that she was summoned to Sonic's dimension through the Soul Emeralds due to some sort of unnatural event that will occur in his world. Sonic assumes that she's referring to the previous war, with Tangle making a point that since the attacks are more organized, the war may have been just the beginning and not the journey itself. With Blaze promising to stay behind until the motivation for her summoning is made clear, Sonic decides to speed off in search of the ringleader and bring this mystery to a close. Meanwhile, on another side of the planet, an onlooking Dr. Eggman watches over an innocent villager with the intent to fix everything.
And that was the first 4 issues of the IDW Sonic the Hedgehog review. And honestly, I think these 4 issues have had a really good, strong start.
It's interesting to see that this comic is actually taking place after Sonic Forces, and perhaps this will mean that Ian Flynn won't adapt the stories of the video games to try and fit comic book characters into the video game lore. I think he just wants the video game lore to remain as it is without interrupting it too much. Each of the characters are written very well. They're in character, they maintain their established personalities, and they bounce off of Sonic really well. The new characters, Ruff, Tumble, and Tangle, have had a good start so far, but I think I want to reserve judgment on their characters as a whole until they get a little bit more development and a bit more screen time. But I can say they are great additions to the cast. The artwork in each selective issue is very well done in its own way, and some issues may be flashier than others in terms of action, but the others more than make up for it with bright colours, expressive character, and dynamic poses. If I had to pick a favourite amongst one of these, I'd say it'd probably have to be issue 2. The writing in that is really good, and it makes for a great character moment between Sonic and Amy. And maybe that's the best way to describe Ian Flynn's work. Even if his stories don't always hit the big mark, he knows how to write great character moments. He's very good at that. Now, at the time of this video's release, the Sonic comics are hard to come by in terms of hard copies, but I have heard that there is a bundle going to be released soon which includes all 4 issues, so if you can, try and get a pre-order for that, or if you don't mind, try getting a digital version from the IDW app. The comic is worth checking out, and it deserves a brand new spanking start to a fascinating and fun series. I highly recommend it if you're a casual fan, hardcore fan, or a newcomer to the series.
So, while we're waiting for that, I'm going to be continuing my Sonic the Hedgehog comic book reviews by doing a bit of a conclusion to the Sonic archives, where we will continue by looking at issues 31 to issue 40. And we're getting pretty close there. I know it's been such a long ride, but I tend to take a long time making these comic book videos. But in the meantime, when you're not waiting for those comic book reviews, I've got a Batman Arkham Marathon coming up very soon, so I hope you guys are all looking forward to that. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves, have a good evening, and as always, stay awesome, lovely viewers. I'll see you all next time.